In many cities, trams disappeared during the 20th century. Politicians demolished tracks, widened roads, and promised a glorious automobile future filled with freedom, speed, and parking. Then came congestion, pollution, noise, and urban chaos. Dresden went in a different direction. Today, this eastern German city of around 570,000 residents still runs one of Europe's strongest tram systems, a network so dominant that trams remain the backbone of daily urban movement. And honestly, after walking through Dresden, it starts to feel like cars are merely tolerated guests. In Dresden, the tram is not public transport, it is the main character. This is the third episode of the first module of the course 6 with the name Case Studies on European Urban Transportation. This module is titled Tram Cities of Europe, Steel Rails and Urban Life. Follow the course if you like the topic. I'm Hushman Masoumi, it's Urban History. Dresden lies in eastern Germany along the Elbe River and serves as the capital of Saxony. The city is famous for Baroque architecture, reconstruction after World War II, and one of Europe's most extensive tram systems. The tram network began operating in 1872 with horse-drawn vehicles before electrification started in the 1890s. Today, Dresden operates 12 tram lines, around 130 kilometers of tram routes, more than 190 tram vehicles, and over 330 million annual passenger trips across the city's transit network. This is enormous for a city under 600,000 people. For comparison, many North American cities 10 times larger struggle to achieve similar transit usage. While some European cities removed tram systems entirely before the car boom of the 1950s and 60s, Dresden did not, and that decision shaped the city's future. To understand Dresden, we need to talk about the Cold War. After World War II, Germany split into West Germany and a social East Germany, officially called the German Democratic Republic or DDR. While West German cities increasingly embraced cars and highways during the economy boom, East Germany faced different realities. Limited private car ownership, fuel shortages, lower incomes, and centralized planning. Public transportation became essential. Trams survived not because politicians were environmental visionaries, but because the socialist system simply could not afford mass automobile dependence. Ironically, that constraint later became a huge advantage. By the late 1980s, many Western cities were desperately trying to rebuild tram systems they had already destroyed. Dresden already had one. Nothing is more expensive than demolishing infrastructure and then realizing you still needed it. Dresden tram system is operated by DVB, Dresdner Verkehrsbetriebe. The system carries roughly 160 to 170 million annual tram passengers, with total public transport ridership exceeding 330 million trips yearly. That means the average resident generates hundreds of transit trips annually. Mode share data is even more interesting. In Dresden, walking accounts for roughly 28 to 30% of trips. Public transport around 20 to 22%. Cycling about 13 to 16%, while car usage remains significantly lower than in many similar-sized cities. This is remarkable because Germany is still a very car-oriented country overall. Germany has around 49 million registered passenger cars and approximately 580 cars per 1,000 inhabitants. Yet Dresden's urban form and tram dominance reduce car dependency inside the city itself. The tram network is simply too useful to ignore. Lines run frequently, often every 5 to 10 minutes during peak periods. Stops are integrated directly into neighborhoods, commercial streets, and major intersections. Instead of forcing passengers underground everywhere, Dresden keeps mobility visible and accessible. That matters psychologically. People are more likely to use transit when stations feel safe, routes are understandable, and vehicles are physically present in urban life. A visible tram every few minutes constantly reminds people you do not actually need a car. One reason Dresden works so well is because the tram system is not separate from the city. It shapes the city. Commercial areas cluster around tram stops. Housing density increases along corridors, and pedestrian activity concentrates near stations. This is classic transit-oriented development, even though much of Dresden evolved before planners invented the term. Unlike highways, trams do not destroy urban continuity. They support street life. Shops remain accessible, sidewalks remain active, and streets still feel human. Cars move through cities, trams help build cities. And you can feel that difference immediately in Dresden's urban atmosphere. Highways create drive-through urbanism. Trams create places where people accidentally spend money on coffee. Germany has a complicated relationship with transportation. On one hand, it produces world-famous public transport systems, high-speed rail, and excellent urban transit. On the other hand, it is home to BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Porsche, and Volkswagen, and built parts of its national identity around driving. The Autobahn is practically German mythology at this point. So cities like Dresden constantly balance two competing systems, car culture and public transportation culture. And the competition is visible in urban space. Despite its strong tram network, Dresden still struggles with congestion, suburban commuting, parking pressure, and traffic growth in peripheral districts. The metropolitan region remains more car-dependent than the historic core. Like many European cities, Dresden faces suburbanization patterns where wealthier residents move outward while relying heavily on cars for regional mobility. This creates tensions. Should cities expand roads, reduce parkings, prioritize bikes, or build more tram corridors? Transportation planning becomes political very quickly. Nothing turns normal citizens into urban planning experts faster than removing 12 parking spaces. Dresden's mobility success is not only about trams. The city also benefits from relatively compact urban form, mixed land use, extensive walking infrastructure, and growing cycling investment. The Elbe River corridor plays a huge role here. Cycling paths along with the river create long, uninterrupted mobility corridors connecting major parts of the city. Germany's famous Elbe cycle route passes directly through Dresden and attracts hundreds of thousands of cycling tourists annually. Meanwhile, the city center remains highly walkable. Unlike many post-war cities rebuilt entirely for cars, Dresden constructed much of its central urban form after World War II in ways that still supported pedestrians and transit. That decision preserved human scale. And human scale changes everything. Research consistently shows that people walk more in environments where blocks are shorter, intersections are frequent, and destinations remain visually interesting. Dresden performs relatively well on all three. Walking here does not feel like transportation punishment. It feels normal, which is surprisingly rare globally. Today, Dresden faces the same challenge confronting almost every European city. How do you reduce emissions without destroying mobility? Transportation accounts for roughly 20% of Germany's greenhouse gas emissions, and private cars remain one of the largest contributors. This is why tram systems matter again. Electric trams use less space, produce lower local emissions, carry far more passengers per corridor, and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. One modern tram carries over 200 passengers. Replacing that capacity with private cars would require kilometers of road space and massive parking infrastructure. And parking itself is shockingly inefficient. A single parked car occupies around 12 square meters, often more when accounting for excess lanes. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands of vehicles, and entire cities begin disappearing under asphalt. Dresden avoided some of that fate because it never fully abandoned rail transit. Dresden is important because it shows that transportation systems create long-term urban consequences. Cities that preserve trams often preserve density, walkability, and public space quality. Cities that fully embraced cars often became noisier, more sprawling, and more expensive to maintain. Dresden is not anti-car, but it proves something powerful. A modern city does not need to revolve around automobiles to function successfully. Maybe that is why the tram still dominates here. Not because it is nostalgic, not because it is cute, not because tourists like photographing yellow trains beside old churches, but because more than 150 years after the first horse trams appeared, rail-based urban mobility still solves problems more efficiently than cars in dense cities, which must be deeply upsetting for people who thought the future of transportation was simply more lanes. So here is the real question. If Dresden could preserve trams through war, socialism, reunification, and modern traffic growth, why did so many other cities destroy theirs?